Welcome to Spirit Life. I'm Dr. Obi Hanju. This is a special talk and on Spirit Life, and I just got thinking, and this is the thought I am sharing with us out there, that the world has changed much more than we really realized in this last 1 year. The world has changed. And if you have not taken note, I want you after this to take note about what's happening around you and what's going to happen going forward. The world has changed. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I watch, I look at things around me, I look at trends of events. I try to reflect on spiritual, physical, scientific changes and help guide my life philosophy and thinking about the way life is. The psalmist said, "Lord, help us to number our days so that we can apply our hearts to wisdom." The world has changed. It has changed radically. It has changed tremendously. Let me put it this way. The world is much more ready now for the Antichrist than it was several decades ago, than it was 5 years ago. Something significantly has shifted with this war on pandemic, with all this COVID-19 pandemic stuff. I tend to look at this pandemic as a prelude to something bigger coming. I tend to look at it as an experiment of some sort. The scripture says that we are not wrestling flesh and blood, but we are wrestling with principalities and powers. We're wrestling with the rulers of this world and spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. Another scripture in the book of Revelation that comes to my mind is where it talks about the enforcement of certain kinds of universal obedience through commerce. And in that scripture it says that no man can buy or sell. No man may be able to buy or sell except he has the mark. There is a mark. And I've always thought about how can this be enforced in a universal scale. But the past year has shown me how it can be enforced on a universal scale, which you all are beginning also to realize. The world is much more readier now to receive the Antichrist than it was before now. The world is much readier for a universal control than it was several years back. And big nations, including the United States, are being forced to fall in line so that they can continue to exist. Now let me break it down in a simple summary. We are being asked and suggested in some places, being advised to take a vaccine to deal with the pandemic. On the surface, it looks very innocent, and probably that's what the scientists who are advocating for these things have in mind. But when you look much deeper, you find that for the first time in the history of the world, and subsequently, the rulers of the world, permit me to say, use biblical terms as rulers of darkness, have been able to figure out a way in which they can force the whole world to march at a certain beat. They can force the whole world to go in a certain direction. These things are usually achieved either by fear, persuasion, or blackmail. In different countries of the world now, what we are seeing is that people are being advised to take the vaccine. After a while, people will be mandated to take the vaccine. And probably people will be forced to take the vaccine. Now, in some places, some of my friends in Europe have told me that, those who have taken the vaccine are beginning to have a kind of behavioral attitude towards those who have not taken the vaccine. Without saying it, they are more like, oh, you want to be carriers of something that is dangerous. You think you are smarter than us. Don't you want to be safe so that the whole world will be safe? And gradually, even in a place like Israel, they are planning to introduce what they call, I don't know what kind of passport they call it, kind of a medical passport, that will allow only those who have been fully vaccinated to be able to go out and access certain facilities, go to the bar, go to the swimming pool and all that. And some airlines have begun to toy with the idea of people traveling with a vaccine certificate. In other words, if you've been vaccinated, we're happy to carry you. If you've not been vaccinated, well, we may carry you, but with a lot of restrictions on you. And who knows, probably it will get to a point where if you have not been vaccinated, we'll not carry you. Subtly, people are being blackmailed to do something. So you see the point I'm making. It comes subtly. When the enemy wants to work, it works very subtly. It doesn't come out very openly and say, hey, you must take this, man. It starts with a suggestion. There will be a global catastrophic event or a threatening event that will mandate people to do something which has been suggested to be good for their health. After a while, they'll be forced to do that thing. And those who refuse to do it will be ostracized. That is how the world system works. That is how it works. So now you begin to understand why I say that the world is much, much readier now to receive the Antichrist and for a one world government than it was several decades ago, several years ago. The pandemic and the management of this pandemic, to me, is all looking like an experiment. I'm not saying it's not real, but I'm saying that people are sitting by the sideline and watching. Okay, so we can actually use this kind of thing to achieve the purpose and the goal we want to achieve. Because everybody talks about the same thing. Now, even currently, some nations have decided, well, we don't want to use this anymore. We've seen some adverse reactions. And yet, what we're hearing is there has not been a connection between the adverse reaction and the vaccine. And then, of course, after a while, they will still get back to use the vaccine. We don't know the full effect of this vaccine. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's several years down the line we would know. This is more like a mass medical experiment going on with humanity. This thing about the vaccine, it's like that, and I'm praying that the outcome will be good. That's what we all pray for. But that's not even the issue. I'm not here to examine the efficacy or otherwise of the vaccine. I'm just here to say that finally it's clear that there's a way to get the whole world to do something, whether people like it or not. You find out in the last 1 year or so, governments have become more stronger, even though citizens have also risen up in resistance. Governments have become more stronger in imposing curfews in the name of safeguarding public health. And very importantly, medical decisions are not being taken by medical doctors or scientists or personnel. Medical decisions have now been hijacked by politicians. And they're telling you what to do, when you can go out, when you cannot go out. Even when some dissenting medical voices say otherwise, it is the mayors, the governors, the senators, they are the ones that get to decide which direction the country goes. They are the ones that get to decide what drugs the citizens can take. They are the ones that get to decide if you have to be vaccinated or not, and stuff like that. Don't you see there is a trend, there's a pattern that is evolving now. In many countries, including Europe, citizens have risen up and demonstrated against the lockdowns. Now the government is telling you when you can go out, when you cannot go out, and telling you to stay in your home, telling you you must take this particular thing or you must not take this particular thing. I just want you to think as I am thinking, because God created us intelligent. God created us to think. God created us to have liberty. God created us to be free. And everything that impinges on our freedom and our ability to decide what we want and what we don't want is not God. It's anti-God. There is always a way to figure out things out. There must be intelligent discussions and dialogue, and people arrive at things that are scientifically and logically sensible. I'm not saying that, when there is a pandemic, when there's a virus, people should be careless and go about. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are so many options, there are so many ways and routes to handle this thing. It must not be just one way. And our lives should not be remote controlled because there is a pandemic or there is a war out there. And so I'm saying what I'm saying. This is what I'm observing. This is my conclusion, that the world is much more ready now to receive the Antichrist and the mark of the beast, whatever it is, than we were before now, because people have realized that their liberty has been taken away from them because of fear, coercion, or blackmail. When Jesus spoke to his disciples, he said, watch and pray. You have to watch and pray. Watch, observe things, and pray. And so, just keep praying, keep living your life, and trust God for the best. But keep your eyes open, observe things happening around you, and live ready at every point in time. Live ready. Jesus said that they would not take anybody by surprise. If we are for him, he will not take us by surprise. But just know this, the world has changed, and has changed dramatically. Seriously. Seriously.